Hello everyone, welcome back. Today we're going to be installing a Gen 3 Tesla wall connector in my garage. This is going to be a full power 48 amp install on a 60 amp breaker. I'm using number 6 THHN wire in conduit, which has a rating of 75 amps. The unit will replace an existing lower powered charger that was connected to a NEMA 1450 and a 50 amp breaker. Here's a quick look at the ampacity charts for various types of wiring. Electricity is dangerous and can cause injury or even death. If you're in doubt about any part of this process, or if you're not comfortable, please do not attempt to install the charger yourself. Please contact a licensed electrician to complete the installation for you. Now, in the following portions of this video, I'm going to perform the install. Please keep in mind that I'm not an electrician and I do not install these chargers every day. There may have been some parts where I could have done things a little better. I'm sure you guys are going to post in the comments what I did right and what I could have done better. Folks, just a reminder, please hit the thumbs up to help other YouTubers find quality content. Click on subscribe and then click the bell so that you're notified anytime we add new content. And stay tuned for a blooper reel at the end of this video. This 1450 outlet here. This is where we're going to mount our new charger. This is where the studs are. This cutout was already here from the previous charger installation. So I just removed this piece again. I'll reinstall it once we have the wall connector installed. This is my existing 50 amp breaker. This is a Siemens load center. So the first thing I'm going to do is I'm going to remove the panel off of the breaker box, and we're going to remove this 1450 outlet. I'm going to go ahead and start removing the cover from the breaker box. And one thing to note, I have turned off all the breakers and I've disconnected the service. What I have here is a voltage tester. I'm just gonna, so we see those are hot. These are not. None of this stuff is hot. All this stuff is not hot. So we know that we're safe to work in here, but we have to steer clear of this area right here, because everything below this point, these two are still live. So we have to be very careful working in the box. But the first thing we're going to do is remove this receptacle here, and then remove the 50 amp breaker for our EV charger. So I'm going to start by removing the neutral conductor and the ground conductor for the EV charger, which is coming out right in here. Now, I'm not using an insulated screwdriver. This is probably a no-no, but I'm just going to go ahead and use it. Be very careful. Last thing I'm going to do is remove my 50 amp breaker so that I can replace it with a 60 amp breaker. To do that, I'm just going to pull back and pull it out. Here we can see I've removed. Okay, so now I'm at the point where I'm going to figure out where I'm going to mount this. Now the maximum mounting height, according to the Tesla instructions, is 60 inches. I'm not going to mount it quite that high. I want to mount it right about where this screw is. Right about there. And if you can see that, I'm aiming for right around 55 inches. So not quite 60, this is the maximum. I'm aiming for right around 50, 54 or 55. There's that. Now, if we look at this, this is how I'm gonna do it. I'm gonna bring the wire in, if you can see that. I'm gonna bring the wire in through this punch out in the back. And I'd like to put the screws in the stud right here and right here. So right about where this is, preferably. Now I may have to move it over a little bit. So the other thing I want to do is make sure that this is level. So right about there is level. Right here, where I want to go with my screw. And then right there. I'm just going to go into these so I can see where they all line up and match up. Next thing I'm going to do is I'm going to drill, I'm not going to show that on camera, but I'm going to drill this knockout in the back. This is going to give me a nice clean installation, so the wire is going to come in through the back and you won't be able to see it on the top or on the bottom. So the next thing I'm going to do is I'm going to use my hole saw and I'm going to take out this area right here. I'm going to try to come over just a little bit. So I figured out that my compression ferrule is not going to quite fit in there. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to make the hole a little bit larger at the top here so that I can get it in there. Not a whole lot. There we go. Now I should be able to get this in there with no problem. Okay, so things didn't go as planned. I had to use the multi-tool to cut an additional piece of drywall out. And I gotta make this hole bigger going into the panel. I've also gotta take this piece out so that I can get my hole saw in there. And the way I've gotta do that is I've gotta get this, there's a screw behind here holding this piece in. So I've gotta try to score this and get to the screw. Somewhere in here is the screw. Right there. Okay.
this to support my pieces of drywall once I get finished with the project and put everything back together. So I'm gonna keep this out. Okay, so there's that. We're gonna use that later. So this is 3/4 inch flex non-metallic conduit. I'm going to run this up through there, and I'm going to use these compression fittings to get on there. That's a nice snug fit. Then I'm going to go into the box here. I'm going to cut this off, and this is going to come right into the back of my Tesla wall charger. So now I'm going to shut everything off once again. And start at the bottom of the breaker panel. And then our service disconnect. I'm going to get my ideal, make sure the area I'm working in doesn't have any live wires. It looks good. Get this nice and secure in the box. It's not going anywhere. So now we need to get this, and we need to get another fitting fitted on the end of this. So I've cut this. Now I know my cuts aren't perfect. I mean, I'm not doing this every day, so, but the important thing is I've sanded the edge of this, and I'm gonna put another connector on the end of this. Okay, so I've got my conduit connected up to the back of the unit, and I'm going to get it as close as I can. So I've got to level this up using my trusty level. This is not the easiest because the sides are kind of tapered and the top is kind of tapered a little bit. Okay, so now I'm going to mount the box up to here. And I've had a change of plans. I'm actually going to use the far left screws. And I'm going to start out with the bottom screw, and then I'm going to level the top out. So now I'm just going to fit this up. And I'm just going to use this to get it started. It's just into the wood there. Now what I'm going to do is try to level it out. Now I'm just going to get my screws in there. Ground wire. do this. I'm not going to tighten it down just yet. I'm just going to start it so I can still pull the wires through. We have all the conductors stripped. Now we're going to land wires. So now we have them landed. I'm going to just tighten them down. So now we're going to run our wires and install our 60 amp breaker. All right, so now comes the moment of truth. That's enough to secure it. This is the special Tesla bit. Now for the moment of truth. Now I'm going to put the breaker panel back on. Okay, we have our breaker panel. And there is our EV charger on a 60 amp breaker.
Okay folks, now at this point you need to commission the charger, and you do that by connecting to the SSID that's broadcast by the wall connector. You can also use the QR code that came with the wall connector. After you do that, you should be all set. Oh, and make sure that you commission it properly. Do not exceed the appropriate rating for your breaker. In our case, we have a 60 amp breaker, so we're going to use the full 48 amps that's available from the wall connector. If you have a 50 amp, you need to set the maximum to 40 amp. And if you have something lower than that, you need to also set it accordingly.
Okay, got our charger. Let's see if it works in our Tesla. All right. And normally I charge up to 90%. But I'm actually going to set the charging limit to 100% for right now. I don't know what it did. There it is. It looks like it's charging.
And as you can see, we're getting the full 48 amps. We have 1 hour and 15 minutes to full charge. So I'm going to let it fully charge up to 100%. And make sure my charger is functioning properly. Folks, that's going to wrap this one up. If you like this video, please give it a thumbs up. It helps others find quality content on YouTube, and we really appreciate it. Click on subscribe, and then click the bell to get notified whenever new content is added. As always, comments, questions, and suggestions are welcome below, and we thank you very much for watching.
So, of course, we'll try to use to get started. Okay. 1/2 inch.